Hello, I'm Ben Albuquerque and this is the theory section of my BIMM audition. I'm going to start off by talking about the circle of fifths. Here we can see the main structure of the circle of fifths. Around the outside of the circle are all the different major keys that exist. It's called the circle of fifths as each key is exactly a fifth higher if we go down the right hand side, or a fifth lower going down the left hand side than its previous key. When music's talked about as being in a particular key, it means that the notes in the melody are all based on the major or minor scale of that same name. Here on the right hand side we can see the tables which break down all the different major keys and show their number of sharps or flats that they contain. For example, the key of C contains no sharps, so it's based entirely on the white notes on the keyboard. The key of G contains 1 F sharp, the key of D contains 2 F sharp and C, and it increases right down to 6, which is F sharp, and all the notes that are sharpened are there. It's exactly the same for the flat keys. Key of C again contains no flats, so it's the white notes. F contains 1, which is B flat, right down to G flat, which contains 6, again, which are there at the bottom of the table. Down at the bottom of the circle of fifths, we can see keys which are enharmonically equivalent to each other. This means that the scales will sound exactly the same, but the key symbols are written differently. If we look back over at the tables on the right here, we can see down at the bottom of the tables there are keys which contain a large number of sharps or flats. Now, when writing a piece of music, if we were to write a sharp symbol or a flat symbol next to every single note that required it, then the music would become very messy and very difficult to read or write. This is why we use key signatures. Here we can see some key signatures. A key signature is written right after the clef before any of the notes are written, and all it is a sharp symbol or a flat symbol is written on the same line as the note that requires it. So we can see that the key of C has no sharps or flats, so there is nothing there. But the key of G has 1 sharp, which is F sharp, so on the F line we write the sharp symbol. The key of A has 3, F, C and G, so we write sharp symbols on the F line, the C line and the G line. It's exactly the same for the flats. The key of F has 1 flat, which is B flat, so we write the B flat symbol on the B line. The key of G flat has 6, B, E, A, D, G and C, so all of those flat notes are written on the respective lines. Next we move on to scales. A scale can be defined as a series of notes in alphabetical order, going from any given note to its octave, usually based on some form of set pattern. Most scales are based upon a set pattern of tones and semitones. There are lots of different scales, but here are a few of the most common ones found in Western music. Firstly, there are major scales. The sequence of tones and semitones in a major scale is shown here, and this sequence is the same for any major scale, so it can be used to work out the major scale of pretty much every key in the circle of fifths. Minor scales, there are 3 different types of minor scales. There's the pure minor, harmonic minor and melodic minor. Pure minor, you can see, has no accidentals in it. The harmonic minor has the 7th note of the scale, or what's also called the leading note, and this is sharpened, meaning the interval between the 6th and the 7th note is actually a tone and a half. Of the 3 minor scales, melodic minor is the most common. When ascending the scale, the 6th note and the 7th note of the scale are augmented, and then on descending the scale, there are returns to their naturals. Finally, there is pentatonic, and as the name suggests, these scales contain 5 notes. There's the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic. Of the 2, the minor pentatonic is the most common and is what a lot of guitarists in popular and rock music use to write their solos, as it has a very nice sound and is very versatile, all over the guitar and has several different positions. Note values are extremely important when it comes to reading or writing music. Here's a list of the most common note values found in Western music and their respective symbols and lengths. Firstly is the semibreve or whole note, and this is the most common longest note that you'll find in Western music, lasting for a total of 4 beats. Next is the minim or half note, and is so called because it's half the length of the semibreve, lasting for a total of 2 beats. The crotchet is probably the most common note found in music and lasts for a total of 1 beat, which is a quarter of the length of a whole note, and so the crotchet can also be called the quarter note. Quaver is half the length of a crotchet, lasting for half a beat, making it an eighth the value of a semibreve or whole note, meaning that a quaver can also be referred to as an eighth note. Semiquavers are the final most common note value found in Western music, and these last for a quarter of the beat, half the value of a quaver, and a 16th the value of a whole note, and so they can also be referred to as 16th notes. Tying in very closely with note values are rhythms. There are lots of different types of rhythms. Some of the most common are syncopated, cross rhythms, polyrhythms, and triplet rhythms. A rhythm is a strong pattern of notes in a piece of music that's usually repeated. Syncopated rhythms are when the notes fall off the regular beat of the music. Polyrhythms are when 2 rhythms with different pulses are played simultaneously, which is similar to cross rhythms, which is when 2 conflicting rhythms are played together. Triplet rhythms are when 3 notes are played in the time that it takes to play 2 An interval is the distance between 2 notes of different pitches. It's found by starting on and including the bottom note, and then counting the number of lines and spaces up to and including the top note. The smallest interval in music is a semitone, and this is also referred to as a minor second. The next interval up from that is 2 semitones or a tone, and this is also known as a major second. There are many different types of intervals, but some of them have special names. For example, perfect first interval is an interval of 2 notes of exactly the same pitch, and so this is also called unison. The other is a perfect eighth, which is also known as Moving on to chords. A chord is a group of 3 or more notes played simultaneously. Each chord can be made using a different combination of notes. There are lots of different types of chords as shown here on the left, but these are some of the most common chords found in Western music. The most common of all chords is the major chord. This is created using the 1st, 3rd and 5th notes of any major scale. The opposite of major chords is the next most common, which is minor chords, and these are created using the 1st, flattened 3rd and 5th notes of the scale. Some more complex chords, minor 6th, major 6th, major 7th and minor 7th chords. These have exactly the same structure as major and minor chords, only including the 6th and 7th notes of the scale respectively. Suspended chords see the 3rd note of the scale replaced with the 4th note, while augmented chords have the 5th note of the scale sharpened. All of these chords here can undergo inversions. All of them can undergo 1st, 2nd and 3rd inversions, and a few of them can even undergo 4th inversions. An inversion is when a note contained in the chord that is not usually seen as the root note is taken to become the root note, thereby giving the chord a slightly different sound. This can also make it easier to play depending on where you are on a piano or guitar or whatever instrument you're playing. Finally, we move on to time signatures. Time signatures are arguably the most important feature of a piece of music. Observing the time signature of a piece of music allows us to see the meter of the music and also what note values make up each bar. The time signature of a piece of music is written after the clef and after any key signatures have been written down. The top number tells us the number of beats that are contained within each bar, while the bottom number tells us the beat value of the notes in that bar. Down the left hand side here we can see some of the common values of notes in each bar. 4 is a crotchet beat or quarter note, 2 is a minim or a half note, 8 is a quaver or an eighth note, and 16 is a semiquaver or a 16th note. Here are some common time signatures found within music. 4/4 or common time as it's known as is so called because it's the most common time signature found within music, and this tells us that the note values in each bar must add up to 4 crotchets in every bar. This gives 4/4 gives a very regular feel to the music, which is why it's the most common time signature found. 3/4 is a waltz style feel to the music, and this 3/4 tells us that there must be 3 crotchets in every bar, or the note values must add up to 3 crotchets in every bar. 6/8 is a jazz or blues or swing feel to it, and this tells us that the note values must add up to 6 quavers in every bar. Finally, 7/8 is probably the most common odd time signature, and this tells us that the note values in each bar must add up to 7 quavers in every bar. Thank you.